Come around, listen in and join the fun. Learning as we go, new words and stories. Adventures begun. Let's open up the pages. Don't have far to look. It's all in a book. Ruthy's Reading Room. Ruthy's Reading Room. Ruthy's Reading Room. Ruthy's Reading Room.
Why, hello, little readers. Welcome to Ruthy's Reading Room. I'm Ruthy, and this is my buddy Jah. He's my favorite stuffy, and he's joining us for story time today. Is everybody excited to be here? Let me get a yay! All right, that's awesome. I'm always happy to see happy readers. So, if you've joined us and you don't already have your stuffy, I'm going to invite you to run and get your stuffy or blankie, and I know your parent or guardian to come and read the story with you. Run and come back now. All right, all my little readers are coming on back, bringing your mommy or daddy, your nana or papa. Maybe you brought a neighbor. Oh, your cousin. I love it. Come on and join me around the carpet or in your reading nook. We're going to enjoy a story together. All right? And let's ask the question, which book is coming off the shelf next? Let's see. Da, 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 da. This book is called Jayla's Jaunts, all about Alabama. And this book was written by Senyah Haynes and illustrated by Adam Leander Haynes. Isn't that cool? Now, just based on the title, I feel like we're going to learn about Alabama. Are any of my little readers from the United States? Do any of you live in Alabama? So maybe you'll learn a few new things, or you may already know a lot of it. But how will we find out? We're going to read the book. That's right. Okay, Jah is over here, back in his reading nook. And we're going to put our listening ears on and put our hands in our lap. And I'm going to make sure that we're all sitting quietly and ready to go. All right, I'm going to use my binoculars. Let's focus. There we go. And I see, oh, so many people are sitting quietly. Oh, you're lying down, getting comfy. Oh, is it a little chilly? You have your
bubbly,
blanket?
Bouncy, bright-eyed, buoyant, big ideas,
You guys
big
are
dreams,
ready.
never
So
bashful
let's
little
dive
girl.
in. Mama, this one's for you. From your cubs. Thank you, Daddy.
Jayla is a bubbly, bouncy, bright-eyed, buoyant, big ideas, big dreams, never bashful little girl. Her favorite thing to do is fun making from sun up to sundown. She climbs trees and chases butterflies and walks on her hands. She skips rope by herself and sings out loud in the mirror. Jayla is her happiest when she spends each moment doing something fully fun.
This morning, before Jayla begins her fun making, her mother introduces her to her daddy's sister, a woman she is told to call Auntie Yah-Yah. Jayla looks at the strange lady who has beads and feathers in her long dark locks and sticks out her hand, as mannerly little girls are taught to do. Pleasure to meet you, ma'am. Very polite, Jayla. Ma'am schmam, the lady proclaims, I'm your Auntie Yah-Yah. She gives Jayla a huge hug and spins her around. I've come a great distance just to see you. I want to know what things you like to do. Do you have an auntie like that? Or an uncle? Yeah, you're pretty close with? Aw, they live in your neighborhood? Awesome. Everything, Jayla exclaims. I like to climb trees and chase butterflies and walk on my hands. I like to skip rope and Jayla becomes excited at just the thought of all the fun. But excuse me, little missy, do you also like to roam? I mean, travel to places far away from your home? Jayla thinks of all the things she likes to do from sun up to sundown. She wonders out loud, travel? But where would I go? Where would you travel to if you could right now? Disney? Yeah. Oh, the park? Your friend's house? That's great. Maybe we'll see where Jayla wants to go. Where would you go? Oh, goodness gracious, Timbuktu. Where wouldn't you go? What wouldn't you do? Auntie Yah-Yah reaches into her tiny glittered purse that sparkles as if it makes its own sunlight and magically pulls out a globe that from the South Pole to the North Pole stands as tall as Jayla. Then she winks. Sometimes aunties have mysterious ways, but it sure does make for exciting days. Now I want you to spin the globe and close your eyes. Point your finger and we'll both be surprised. Oh, we've got a rhyming auntie. Wherever you're pointing when the globe stops spinning is where we'll journey, and I'm not kidding. I need a globe like that. Jayla steps close to the globe and gives it a whirl. Then, in her biggest voice, she says with a pointed finger, I want to go there. Oh, where's she pointing to? Any clues? Remember the title. Auntie Yah-Yah smiles. Well, isn't that something? You're already here. A homeland journey. How delightful, my dear. The United States of America, a swell place to start. And since it's my country, it's close to my heart. Alphabetically speaking, what's the first state we should visit? You're a smart little girl. I bet you know. Now, which is it? Yell it out. Jayla already knows the answer and she jumps up and down, ready to burst. We're already here. Alabama's the first state, and we're already here. Did any of you know it was Alabama too? Yeah? High five. Alabama it is. Let's go off and explore. Take my hand, child. Grab tight and let's head for the door. Jayla grabs her Auntie Yah-Yah's hand and they race out the door and disappear in a flash. Amazingly, the next thing she knows, they are floating in the sky, looking down at a bridge, and Auntie Yah-Yah has transformed into an elder woman. Her long locks are up atop her head in a gray bun, and she clutches a wooden walking stick with a face carved on it. Slowly, Auntie Yah-Yah, the elder, begins to speak. Generations ago, child, Black citizens were tired. Many white folks had long mistreated them, stoking their ire. They didn't want anything more than respect and their rights, and to get them they engaged in many, many peaceful fights. So they gathered together and decided to march from Selma to Montgomery by crossing this arch. This is the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and on Bloody Sunday, dozens of armed Alabama state troopers stood in their way. Now, my little readers, who has joined me for many story times? Yeah, a lot of you. So does this sound familiar from some of our other books? Yeah. Do we remember the name Martin Luther King Jr.? Yes. Yep. We talked about this march, didn't we? And how it was one of the movements, peaceful, that led to change, right? So what's important is as we read these books and add to our knowledge bank, we remember those lessons. And then when we read about it again, it's just adding more detail or reminding us of the information we've already learned. So you guys are awesome. Jayla listens as the questions and images swirl in her head. Auntie Yah-Yah, the elder, continues to speak. Now I know you could say peace and fights can't coexist, like dry water or cold fire. It just doesn't make sense. But those citizens were wise and knew nothing could be clearer than the anger aimed at them reflected back like in a mirror. The peace was nonviolence because they didn't want bloodshed, and the fight was their struggle, knowing they must move ahead. To show the world how folks were acting, they made a great sacrifice, but to show it helped to change it, so they bravely paid the price. And in the picture, You can see the message, "We demand voting rights now." And another sign says, "Overcome." And they did have to overcome a lot. Auntie Yah-Yah the elder leads her niece across the bridge. "We shall overcome," the citizens all sang in one voice. They tried to cross the bridge, but troopers took away their choice. They were met with force and brutality, much to their dismay, and that kept them from crossing this bridge on that bloody Sunday. "So they lost their peaceful fight?" Jayla asked, eager to hear how the story ends. She can't imagine anyone bullying anyone else for wanting to cross a bridge while singing. "No, they won, my sweet child. That struggle had its victories. The next time they tried to cross the bridge, they did so with great ease. Due to nonviolent resistance against rules that were unjust, eventually new laws were made to protect people like us. I grew up much freer than my parents were in their day, and you'll grow up freer still, and that's something to celebrate. But remember this one thing, Jayla. It's important you never forget." Pay attention, my little readers. "The gains generations before you fought for are now your duty to protect." That's for everyone, right? Not just Black children, everyone. "Auntie Yah-Yah, I think I like to travel. Where can we go next?" Auntie Yah-Yah's eyes twinkle and she grows young again as her hair lets loose and her long dark locks flow like a waterfall past her waist. Hand in hand, they travel through space and time. In the blink of an eye, Jayla is standing on the shoulders of Auntie Yah-Yah the elder, and they are surrounded by many large brick buildings. The elder speaks. "In 1895, there was a man named Booker T. He wanted his brothers and sisters to strive for self-sufficiency. That means being able to take care of themselves. 'Cast down your bucket where you are,' is what he said for all to hear. He had belief in their success that he held very near and dear. To be somebody, there's no need to go and wander very far. So he said to all who'd hear him, 'Cast down your bucket where you are.' This place we stand, child, is evidence of his great legacy. I present to you the historic Tuskegee University." Next, Auntie Yah-Yah, the elder, creates for them a shady spot beneath a tree. "Now, don't get me wrong," she says, "it wasn't all about Booker T. Many great minds and brave souls have walked the halls of Tuskegee. The names of all the notables are too many for me to utter." She stops abruptly and asks Jayla, "Hey, do you like peanut butter?" Jayla nods in excitement. Auntie Yah-Yah the elder digs into her tiny glittered purse that sparkles as if it makes its own sunlight and magically pulls out a jar of chunky peanut butter and 2 spoons. Do any of you like peanut butter? I do. I eat it with apple. Anybody else? They eat their yummy treat beneath the weeping willow tree. Now let me tell you about old George Carver and the things he used to do. He was a scientist, inventor, researcher, and a teacher too. He was a botanist. That means he knew a whole bunch about plants, and he taught farmers what he knew so they'd be able to advance. He gave them great advice on crops like soybeans and sweet potatoes. But he's most famous for all the things he found could be done with the peanut. Well, thank you, George Carver. Yum, yum, yum. In 1913, little Rosa was born right here in this city. Mrs. Rosa Parks grew up to be a champion in a movement to be free. She was one of many women and men who felt enough was enough. Like some courageous souls before her, she did something very tough. What she did was refuse to stand up and move to the back of a city bus. Child, you'd be amazed the kind of rights that were denied to folks like us. There's a word called segregated. It means to separate or divide. And that's what lawmakers did to people to keep them from living side by side. In public spaces, we had to play in separate parks, drink from separate water fountains, use separate washrooms, go to separate schools. It was a crazy world back then. And that's exactly why Mrs. Parks stayed seated. That woman wasn't lazy. She knew, like many others,
that the way things was crazy. While we're here, there's a group of young men whose story should be told. They were pilots, fighters in World War II. These men were very bold. Against all odds, they excelled in their jobs and nobly represented a nation. The Tuskegee Airmen's legendary triumphs will live on for generations. Folks said they'd never learn to fly, but they did, and wouldn't you know, their victories were a whopping slap in the face of old Jim Crow. Yes! Jayla is getting a lot of information, but she doesn't quite understand. Do you guys have questions too? Yeah? Maybe you should write them down and go over them with your caregiver. Oh, now, sweetness, I see you're confounded. Who's old Jim Crow, you ask? Auntie Yah-Yah the elder thinks long and hard. Now, how should I explain Jim Crow? That's such a daunting task. Imagine someone putting mud on their face and dancing all around, singing Jump Jim Crow and other foolishness and acting like a clown. That's how it started. The name, you see, came from a minstrel show where one man made fun of another a long, long time ago. And you'll see pictures of that, what that looked like. But later on, the term Jim Crow became a symbol for a set of rules. Jayla thinks about the Edmund Pettus Bridge and how Black citizens weren't allowed to sing and march, and how Mrs. Rosa Parks and others didn't want to sit in the back of the bus, and all the other things her Auntie Yah-Yah has talked about throughout their journey. She's really putting all the information together, isn't she? And remembering what she learned. Like having to drink from separate water fountains, Jayla asks. Yes, dear, her auntie says, or going to separate parks and schools. Jim Crow became a system of very unfair laws. That's why so many people end up fighting for the cause. The cause, of course, was to end segregation, the system of Jim Crow. It valued white people above Black people wherever they would go. Come, child, we've gallivanted through space and time today. What's the next date that begins with the letter A? Auntie Yah-Yah the elder lets Jayla reach inside her tiny glittered purse that sparkles as if it makes its own sunlight and pull out her magic globe. Jayla studies the map of the United States of America. After a few moments, she proclaims in her most bubbly, bouncy, bright-eyed, buoyant, big ideas, big dreams, never bashful sort of way, I know the next state that starts with the letter A is Alaska. Oh, brr. Auntie Yah-Yah says, it's cold up there, but I must agree, the next A state is Alaska, so Alaska it will be. Auntie Yah-Yah has grown young again with twinkling eyes and her long dark locks flowing like a waterfall past her waist. Jayla has watched her transform several times today, and she wonders why this happens. Auntie Yah-Yah, she says, how come sometimes you're young and sometimes you're old? Never old, right, ladies? We don't age. I'm neither, child, and I'm always both. In fact, I'm timeless, sweetheart. Sometimes I'm young just for the fun, wise when there's knowledge to impart. We learn from our elders all our lives. I have, and so will you. If I look like an elder woman when I teach, it's because you want me to. Jayla giggles at the thought of having so much power. Well, Jayla says, you're young now, so maybe it's time to have some fun. How about a piggyback ride? Well, of course, why not? Hop on, kiddo. It's getting late, so off we go. Jayla hops on her Auntie Yah-Yah's back and holds the walking stick above her head as they make their way home. She yells to all she's encountered today, goodbye, Pettus Bridge, goodbye, Booker T, George Carver, Mrs. Parks, and Airmen. Goodbye, Tuskegee. It was nice to meet you. Auntie Yah-Yah begins to run, and Jayla wails in delight. The end. Now, oh my goodness, what an awesome book and so much great information. Did everyone learn at least 5 things about Alabama? I think so. I think we did. So I'm going to encourage you to check in the description below, check for the link where you can purchase this book and order. And I'll give you some inside information.
This is the first of a few books in the series where we'll follow Jayla and her Auntie Yah-Yah. And we're going to visit all the various states. So keep checking back, keep up with Ruthy's Reading Room and all the stories I share, because there's always something new you can add to your knowledge bank. So I'm so happy you joined us in Ruthy's Reading Room for this amazing story. And remember, the best place to read is wherever you are with a book. And if you did enjoy reading with us, please remember to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and hit that notification bell so we can read again soon. Happy reading, little readers. Goodbye.
Ruthy's read it.